also runs the ERVREdubHub.com, an educator resource with everything you need to learn how to integrate AR and VR into your K-12 classroom. Michael has been presenting on a variety of EdTech topics for more than 10 years and has been exploring and experimenting and sharing about AR and VR for more than 4 years. So it's with absolutely great pleasure that I welcome Michael to the stage. And Michael, I'm going to give it over to you. If you remember to make sure your voice is amplified, that would be awesome.
Yes, thank you, Donna.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for a great introduction. I appreciate it. I've been presenting, more than 10 years, but this is my very first time presenting inside virtual reality. I'm super excited to be here. It's kind of cool to be the last session to wrap things up. I appreciate everybody working around and getting everything ready and set up. Thanks for being here today. So I'm going to talk about how I'm helping some history teachers at my school transform their lessons through the use of AR and VR. It's a project we've been working on for the past 2 years. I'll kind of walk you through how we set up that project and how we've moved through our struggles and fails and successes along the way. And hopefully maybe inspire you to do something similar in your own community. I'm Michael Fricano. I teach at it's called Iolani School in the heart of Honolulu, Hawaii. We're a K-12 private school. Been around for many years. We were a school started by King Kamehameha back when Hawaii was not a state. It was its own place run by the Hawaiian Kingdom. And we've been around a long time, but I've been at the school for about 6 years. And I serve as a tech integration specialist. I teach technology classes to K through 3rd grade students, and I support my teachers with projects in the classroom as well. And if you want access to this slide deck, I've got some templates that we've used. All of the content that we've created from this project is publicly accessible, and it's all accessible via this website and the pages within at the arvreduhub.com/transform-history. So feel free to check that out. I can put this slide back up a little later too if you want to access it again. But I'm going to talk through this project we've been leading for the past 2 years with myself and 2 other history teachers. We sort of came together through happenstance, all interested in trying the same things in their classrooms and needing some support on it. And that's my role, to support them along the way. And so we've sort of broken this down into 5 steps. It's not 5 easy steps. It's definitely been a struggle, learning the tools and learning the process and working through mistakes and going through revisions of the products that we've created along the way and trying to make them the best that we can. But I'll break down this project into these 5 steps. So the first step had to start with a guiding question, as most curriculum should, right? We either call it a guiding question or an essential question. And as you can see in this picture here, I'm on the right. I'm on your right, yeah. And the 2 ladies on the left here, 2 amazing history teachers. Makanani Jones in the middle there. She's a middle school history teacher. She teaches Hawaiian studies to 8th graders at my school. And the lady on the left, Patty, she's an elementary history teacher. She teaches 4th grade. She also teaches Hawaiian history. Back in beginning of 2019, they came to me both sort of at the same time, but not working together. They sort of approached me at the same time and basically came to me with the same question. They both teach Hawaiian history. Hawaiian history is rich, it's long, it's very complicated, and it's the history, just like with any local history, is connected to some really amazing historical locations, very significant. And as much as we'd like to take our students to all these places, it's not always realistic, due to budget constraints. Some places you just can't bring 100 or 200 students to at the same time. because they're very fragile, they're very delicate places. And so I've been sort of working with them on some other, VR related side projects. So they were familiar with the tools and the technology. And so they both approached me and said, I want to take my kids to all these places, and I want them to experience these places as part of our curriculum. But if we can't take them there, what would be another way to connect them to these places? And so through these individual conversations, our guiding question in this project came to light. And it was, if we can't take our students there, if it's not realistic, it's not possible, how can we bring these places and these artifacts to our students? And that's what sort of guided us along the way. And the answer was fairly simple, right? We as teachers, and now we're moving into students now with this next phase, but we're able to create our own VR field trips now. The technology, the tools are easily accessible. Most of the tools we used are completely free, and they're web-based, so they're easy to use, easy to access. So it allows us to create that content ourselves rather than expecting some third-party company or organization to do it for us and having to wait for that. And then it's also possible to create our own AR artifact museums, which is a really exciting aspect of this field trip. So they were super excited. It was sort of daunting to them. Like they've consumed VR content with their students before, but they've never created it. And so the idea that, hey, I can create this myself is exciting to both these teachers, but they're a little scary too, because for teachers as busy as they are, learning something new can be, can be a little bit scary sometimes. They were totally on board and willing to try it, especially if it meant helping our local history, our Hawaiian culture, be able to preserve these places through the content that we can create. Because what's starting to happen is these places are so old that they're starting to deteriorate. They're very fragile. Some of these places you can't access, the public's not allowed to access them because of those reasons. And so we can't bring our students there, right? So being able to create these things as VR field trips allows us to sort of capture our history and share it with the wider public, the world. And so last year we started this project. At my school, we have these things they're called school-based initiative grants. So they're projects that we're able to apply for through our school. And our school provides us financial support to make these projects come to life. And so the project we proposed last year was to visit these places that we can't take our students to and purchase some of the tools and find time to meet together to turn them into these VR field trips. And so these are a couple of places that we started with. One is on the island that we live on, Oahu. And it's a place called Thomas Square, really significant to a period in time when Hawaii was a territory and eventually became a state. And then 3 other places, we were able to travel to another island called Hawaii Island, which is also known as the Big Island, to visit a couple of places tied to the ancient Hawaiian history. One being a place called the Naha Stone, which I think you saw back a couple of slides ago. So this one here, this big stone here is tied to a really popular story about King Kamehameha and his ability as a young boy to lift that stone. It's sort of like the sword and the stone, right? If you can pull the sword, you'll rule the kingdom. Well, this was a similar story where if you could lift the stone, you had the strength to lead the kingdom and the people forward. And so this is called the Naha Stone as part of the history and the culture. And then a couple other places on the Big Island we wanted to visit, one being a place called Pu'ukohola Luakini National Historic Site. It's what we call a heiau, a very religious site. And it was significant in Hawaiian history because it was the heiau that was known for uniting all of the islands into one kingdom. And so it's very important in Hawaiian culture. And then the last place we wanted to visit, as you can see in this picture, it's called the Leke Leke and Kuamo'o burial grounds, which was one of the, or I think the final battlegrounds that conquered the other islands and led to the unification of all of the islands into one Hawaiian kingdom. And what's really significant about this burial grounds is that most of the warriors were buried in place. And so when you go there, you see these large mounds, these large stone mounds where the warriors were laid to rest, right, where they fell on the battlefield. And so it's a very, very solemn, but very important to the Hawaiian culture. And we wanted to be able to capture these places because we can't take our students to these places because it's on a different island. Just be too expensive. So being able to turn these into VR field trips, these are the most important locations for our teachers. And that was phase one, sort of part A on the virtual reality side. And then because of these two amazing history teachers, they've been teaching many years Hawaiian history. They've made lots of connections with different organizations and different people tied to our history. And one great connection is sort of right up the road from us, a little bit up the mountainside, is a place called Queen Emma Summer Palace. And they're run by an organization called the Daughters of Hawaii. And it is what the name suggests. It's the summer palace of Queen Emma and King Kamehameha, a place they would go to a little bit further up the mountainside where they would spend their summers in a cooler place on the island. And now it's a museum full of amazing artifacts from that period of time. And it's a small place. And so inside the museum, they're only able to display so many artifacts. But what we found out through building a relationship with them is that they've got a whole basement full of artifacts that don't see the light of day, are unseen by visitors. And it's very sad because there's lots of history tied to those artifacts. And so what we figured out is a process where we're 3D scanning those artifacts and turning them into 3D objects that students can literally hold in the palm of their hand and explore as if they were really there with that artifact. And I'll talk a little bit more about that process. But that was sort of part B of the first phase of this project, was also creating an AR artifact museum around the artifacts tied to our Hawaiian history. And then this year we moved into phase two. We're picking a few more locations and turning them into VR field trips. One being this amazing space in the middle, excuse me, in the middle of a forest in Hawaii. It's sort of like another summer retreat. They were king and queen, so they had many places to stay. And this place is kind of unique because we were able to visit it ourselves. It's not really open to the public. You kind of need to get permission, and so we received that permission. But the public does frequently visit this place. And we visited it last year and collected a bunch of content to build the VR field trip. And then soon after, the state sort of shut it down because people started to vandalize this place. And that's what we're starting to see with a lot of these historical locations, is the unfortunate circumstances around allowing the public to visit these places, the negative aspects of that. And so they've had to sort of block this off and prevent the public from accessing. And you were very lucky to go there before that happened to capture the content for our VR field trip. And now we've sort of captured a moment in time where it was seemingly untouched, and now it's got some vandalism, some spray paint, things like that they're trying to fix. That can be very difficult. And then what we're also working on this year is allowing our students to be the creators of this content. So they do go on some field trips. And so I'm working with the students to take what they experience in real life on their real field trip and turn that into a virtual reality experience. So they learn, they become the experts, and they become the teachers for others. And these projects we're starting to make publicly available so that other schools in Hawaii and other organizations can use this content to better educate people about the Hawaiian history. And then we're moving forward with building out our AR artifact museum, and we'll be working a little later this year with students to help students learn the process of 3D scanning objects and what that's like to take something that's, that's old and delicate and fragile and be able to preserve it in augmented reality. And so that's sort of phase 2, part B of this project as well. Okay, so we selected all these places, decided what was priority, what was most important to the curriculum. And step 2 is really about connecting with the community. I mean, it's not possible unless we have connections and relationships with the people that help take care of these places and protect them, and in some cases carry the stories. In Hawaiian history, a lot of it isn't written down. It's carried from family to family through oral storytelling. And this guy here, one of our connections that took us to those burial grounds, he's part of a royal, a group that considers them part of, connected to the royal family. And he's one of those storytellers. He's been carrying those stories and will pass them on to his, through his family as well. But he told us many stories along the way. And so part of our connection with the community is trying to capture those stories in video and audio and connecting those stories with the places that with the experiences that we're creating. And so, of course, the people are just as important as the place. I mean, without the people, we may not really recognize how significant these places are. And so having that connection is really important. This is a picture of a lava field, and they are petroglyphs. So all along these lava rocks are carvings of pictures and images that tell stories about the people from that time. And this guy here, he's another storyteller. He's been working his whole life trying to figure out what these petroglyphs mean, what their purpose is, and who the people were that lived in this area of Hawaii Island. And what's amazing is this giant lava field of petroglyphs sits in the middle of a very upscale shopping center on the left and a very upscale golf course on the right, which we see a lot of in Hawaii. But it's amazing to see that the history is still there. We're working really hard to preserve it. But it's, the history with, present day reality sort of side by side, and working really hard to preserve that history through the people and the organizations that are protecting them. And so, if you ever, are interested or consider doing something similar like this, make sure that you know who the people are that can share the history and the importance of place. They give the historical context, right? They share the facts. And with Hawaiian history, there's a lot of opinions too. There's a lot of different versions of those stories. And so for our Hawaiian history teachers, it's not just sharing one side of that story, right? They need to make sure that what they're teaching their students are all sides of that story. And so being able to pull in all those various voices and different versions of the story is important, because we want our students to make a decision about what they feel and what they believe is most important. And being able to get all opinions and all perspectives is important to that project as well. And then, who are the people that can help protect the artifacts of our culture? Being able to connect, for us, it was connecting with that museum and that organization, the Daughters of Hawaii, and building that relationship. Because honestly, the Daughters of Hawaii, they're not, they're very financially strapped. They don't have lots of money. They don't make a lot of money from the museum. Making money is not their primary goal. It's protecting the history and the artifacts within it. And so they were very happy for us to approach them and say, hey, can we help you do something with these artifacts? And so building those relationships are really important as well, because some of these places, they're just not able to do it themselves, and they don't know where to start. They're just sort of getting by with what they have. And so for us to come along and offer that support and essentially do it for free, right? Because it's a learning process for us and for our students. It's a win-win situation for both parties. Excuse me. And so once we can make that connection, connecting with the people, we're prioritizing the places and the content we want to create. The next step is creating and collecting that content. We visited a couple places on Oahu, the island we live on, and then we were able to take a trip together to Hawaii Island, the Big Island, to create all the content ourselves. And what I love and what's important to me as a technology innovation specialist for my teachers and my students is to say that what we have here is 100% created by us. Right? We're not scouring the internet for pictures that other people have taken. We're not using other people's stuff. Because it's local and it's important to us, we are the content creators, right? And it's all 100% created by us and by our students. So that the types of content that we want to collect is really important. So on the virtual reality side, we decided, and this isn't a plug, it's just a camera that we decided to go with, but we used the Insta360 to create the 360 images that begin our virtual reality experience. That's the camera we used. It's to me, my personal opinion, it's a really great camera. We chose it because it's affordable. It's only a couple $100. Got some really amazing post-editing software, and it takes really great pictures and video in 360 degrees. And then aside from the 360 content, we had to capture some 2D content. So we had to decide when we visited these places, what were the close-up shots that we wanted to really focus in on specific areas of the experience. Capturing different elements within the scene and then being able to show perspective and detail, right? If you've ever, raise your hand if you've ever been in a 360 or virtual field trip experience. Anybody out there? A couple of you, yeah. So, it's like this, right? It's that first person perspective, but if I want to see a close-up of that object off in the distance, we need to be able to do that through 2D images. We can bring that content closer to the user and give them a unique perspective. And so we did that through photos and videos, and then we also captured audio and video as well. Audio, background noise to give the user a more immersive experience in the environment, but also audio of the people that we connected with, being able to capture the stories that they're telling and make that a part of the experience so that we're preserving that history and those stories for them. And it's important that we still rely on the storytelling aspect of this and rely on the people that are carrying those stories. But we know we're all human, right? Those people are not always going to be there. And so it's important that we try to capture those stories in a different format as well. And if given the permission, we're trying to do that through this project. And then for the augmented reality side of this, the AR museums, we were using an app called Clone, Qlone. And what's really cool about Clone is it's an iOS app, and it basically turns your iPhone or your iPad into a 3D scanner. So you don't need some high-end scanning bed or a handheld scanner. You can use the device that most of us already have. For us at my school, we're a one-to-one iPad school, so we have the device already. We just need this app, and this app allows us to use our iPads, as you can see in the picture, to scan the objects on that sort of checkerboard grid and turn it into three-dimensional objects, so we can then manipulate in different ways. And so we use the Clone app to scan these artifacts at the Queen Emma Summer Palace. And once you've collected all of this content, the 360 images, the 3D objects, the audio, the video, the 2D pictures, it's time to create that AR and VR experience, package it all together in a meaningful and purposeful way to be able to deliver this information effectively to primarily students in our classes, but packaging it in a way that other people outside of our school are able to use it as well. And so for virtual reality, we initially started with Google Tour Creator. That's a free tool. Has anybody ever used Google Tour Creator or experienced it? Anybody out there? I see one or two hands. Yeah, so Google Tour Creator, it's made by Google. It's web-based. It's all through the web, completely free. You log in with your own Google account, and you can create your own virtual reality experiences through the web using Google Tour Creator. And so it's accessible on most devices. And we went with this initially because it also works with another great app by Google called Google Expeditions, which is a free VR consumption tool for schools. More than 900, I want to say more than 900 plus VR and AR expeditions within the app. And so what Google Tour Creator does is it lets you create your own, and then you can send it over to the Google Expeditions app, which then makes it really easy for you to deliver that content to your students, deliver those experiences to your class. And so pairing up those two apps were important to us on the creation side as well as the delivery side of that content. And to get there, to prepare ourselves for Tour Creator, it was important that we planned everything out first, right? So we started with a planning template that let us collect all that content in one place first to be able to sort of map it out so that we know what information needs to go with what pictures and where to put the audio and what kinds of imagery to use. And so we started with the Google Doc template, but we moved over to a Google Slide template. If you're interested in seeing these templates yourself, they're available on the website where this presentation is located. It's accessible for anybody to make a copy of and use. But planning was really important, right? And what we found out was once we got through the planning and started building the tours, one of the teachers commented at one point and said, you know, Tour Creator is really easy. The tool makes it really easy to create this stuff. The hardest part about this project is the research and the content creation, which is, you know, if you think about it, for a teacher who's been around for a long time, that struggle of learning something new can be really difficult, and it can push a lot of teachers away in my experience. And so hearing that tool was really easy, but the hardest part was actually creating the content and researching the history and making sure it was all factual and correct. Hearing that that's the hardest part, that's what you want to hear. Because when we eventually get the students creating this content, we want there to be that struggle, right? Because you learn from struggle. You learn from the creation of that content. And so it was a great testament to the tool as well, that Tour Creator is a very easy tool to create virtual reality experiences. And if my teachers can do it, pretty much anybody can do it. And then on the AR side, for our AR Artifact Museum, we're using a real tangible tool called the Merge Cube. Is anybody familiar with the Merge Cube? Anybody ever used it before? A couple of you. So the Merge Cube, it's something you can buy in a store. It's a foam cube, but it serves as an AR trigger, right? So there are different apps that use the Merge Cube differently, and when you point your device at the cube, it transforms that cube into a 3D object or a three-dimensional experience. And so we're using the Merge Cube with an app called Object Viewer. This is the app icon here with the glasses. And the Object Viewer app, what it does is it lets you upload your own 3D objects and then project it onto the cube. So through these tools, what we're doing is we're taking the scans of the artifacts, attaching them to a Merge Cube so that our students can physically hold that artifact in their hand and be able to manipulate it and interact with it as if it were really there in front of them. It's not just an object on the screen, but it's something they can physically hold, which makes it a much more engaging experience for them. And typically, when you go to a museum, you can't hold these artifacts, right? That's dangerous, right? You run the risk of damaging these artifacts. So to be able to feel like you actually have Prince Albert's boot or King Kamehameha's smoking pipe or jewelry from Queen Emma and be able to hold that and explore it in the palm of your hands is it's a really special experience. And so we're using those tools for the AR Artifact Museum. And then what was really important to us from the onset was the accessibility of this content. We know that as history teachers and as content creators, we don't want to keep it to ourselves, right? It's important in our history that the things that we create are available to everybody and it's easily accessible to everybody. And so one of the decisions we made early on was whatever we create, we're going to make it publicly accessible so that other Hawaiian history teachers, other schools can benefit from this content as well. And so everything that we're creating, everything that our students are creating, we've put together a public website, a public-facing website, where they can access all of these virtual reality experiences. They can also learn how to create them themselves through step-by-step guides and access all of the 3D artifact objects that we've been putting together as well. And so through the website, it's embedded content, pages to learn how, and it's a growing library. So we're still building this stuff out. We're working on students creating this content, and that's becoming a part of the experience as well. And it's a growing resource for anybody to access. And then, of course, the last step is classroom use, testing it out with students, having them experience what the teachers initially created. And for the most part, the feedback and response we got from students is it's definitely way better than watching a movie or reading a textbook or reading an article, right? Those are all, it can all be great resources in their own respects, but they're just not very engaging for our students. And so to be able to virtually transport them to those burial grounds so that they're standing there and experiencing and learning as they're there is a much more engaging way to reach our students and to expose them to the history surrounding Hawaii. Oops. Technical, there we go. Technical difficulties on my end. Is it white on the screen for you guys?
It's saying Q&A, Michael.
Oh, it says Q&A? Oh, yeah, I'm seeing white. Well, I guess we're in Q&A. That's the end of my project. So I'm sorry, I guess I'm having loading issues on my end. Feel free to look me up, look up, everything is accessible via the website, and I appreciate you guys being here today. And if you have any questions, I'll hand it over to Tim over here to take some questions, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Lovely.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
very much, Michael. Can we have a round of applause for Michael, our very, very last speaker at the Educating VR International Summit? Yay! Okay. Right. I'll just out here for a minute so you can see me. Right. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn on your option to ask questions. So you should now see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen an option. Can you see where it says raise hand? So that little button there, if you want to ask a question, pop that button, and what I will then do is I will then unmute you individually, and then I'll prompt you to ask your question. So if you'd like to ask a question, click the raise hand button, please. And already we have a couple of questions. So the very first question, please, it's from Carlos. Carlos, ask your question, please.
Afternoon.
Aloha.
Aloha. Oh yeah, yes. ARVREDUHub.com. You'll be able to find the information there. Yeah, I'll have it on the homepage. Yep. Yes. That was a Yankees cap. Yeah. Thank you, mahalo.
Yeah, we have to make sure of these things. Yeah. If you want that website again, it's www.arvreduhub.com. Okay, arvreduhub.com. Okay, thank you, Carlos. Excellent question. And the next question asker is going to be Lida Libero, please. If you'd like to ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, the question is, have you tried to use photogrammetry to scan the sites that you, you use 360 video to capture the sites, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the
No, we
question
haven't.
is,
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
yes, the question is whether you use photogrammetry to create, to scan and create 3D models of the actual sites.
No, we haven't tried that yet.
Okay.
There's another school in our area. It's another private school. They've been doing some of that work themselves. So we didn't really want to step on any toes. And I guess,
Oh,
in my experience with photogrammetry, it can be, depending on the tools you use, it can be kind of pricey. And so we
depend.
were trying to keep our budget, low.
Um, yeah, currently you don't actually need the it depends what the level of detail, of course, you want.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you can
yeah.
actually do it by just having, just a camera and software like Agitex. What's it called? I don't remember what it's called. But there is a relatively cheap and even free software that you can use for
Oh,
this.
awesome. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, maybe
Okay.
that'll be part of our phase 3.
That's
Okay.
excellent.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for that. That's very useful. Thanks very much. Does anyone else have any more questions? We have time perhaps just for one more question if anyone would like to ask. No? Okay, well, Michael, perhaps if I can just ask you a very quick question, if that's okay.
Sure.
It's very interesting what you've said. I found that a very fascinating presentation. It's something that I'm trying to build into my teaching. I work in a college in the United Kingdom, and I think it's an area that seems to be growing an awful lot more. And what you seem to have put across today is how accessible this technology is and how easy it is with the right tools, most of which are free. You're able to be content creators as well as content takers, I suppose. How
Yeah,
have the children
consumers.
reacted to that process? Is this a fairly quick process? You've been able to develop resources really quickly, and how have the children reacted to that?
Yeah, well, so I recently worked with one of the teachers, the 4th grade teacher, Patty. Their students visited a stream that runs through our city, and it's a stream we're trying to clean up, but it's also got a lot of history attached to it. And so they visit that stream as a field trip. And so the students, they actually recreated their field trip as a virtual reality experience, as a practice run, using, well, we didn't use ProCreator this time. We used another tool called ThingLink VR. ThingLink VR. It's another web-based tool. And we opted to go with ThingLink because they allow you to insert video as well, where Google ProCreator doesn't allow video. But it's very similar tool. The creation process is very similar. It's a lot of drag and drop and uploading your media. And for them, it was, for 4th grader, this is a pretty tech savvy group. I think our students coming up are pretty tech savvy in general, and so they picked up on it pretty quick. But again, for them, the hardest part was making sure that the content they collected during the field trip was of good quality, and then connecting what they learned on that field trip to the media that they wanted to have as part of their experience, connected in a meaningful way as well. And that was a longer step in the process than actually creating the experience itself.
Right. And what was the name of that software again? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, it's called Thing. So THING Link. LINK. ThingLink. Yeah, thinglink.com is the website. And it's also it's a free VR creation tool. They do charge for classroom management features, which you don't necessarily need. They do help with project management, but it's not necessary for creating though.
Wow, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been making notes of all of these URLs you've been giving out.
Cool.
So every time you've been talking about it, I've rushed to my browser and I quickly typed it in.
Type
I've now
it in.
got all these tabs open. So, and my poor
Awesome.
laptop is now struggling. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael. Can we give
Thanks
Michael
for
a
that
round of
question.
applause, please? Some hearts and some hands, and our very final presentation for the International Summit. Thank you so much. And it's been an absolute
Thanks, everyone.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Actually, if we got one more question, has somebody just...
Oh, we have a question?
Another couple. you okay for another couple of questions, Michael?
I'm fine, yeah. I'm fine.
Yeah, fabulous. Playman, sorry, I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly. Would you like to ask your question, please?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, can you raise your hand? I know I'm looking at the right person.
I just want to add that Flipgrid kind of followed after ThinkLink, and Flipgrid also can be a great tool for the same purpose.
Yes,
Otherwise,
yeah, you can, if you're familiar with Flipgrid, they've actually partnered together, so you can embed your Flipgrid content that students create inside of a ThinkLink project. It's really awesome.
Yeah, wow, that sounds great. What's
Yeah.
that called again? Fliplid.
So let me turn on the microphone.
Flipgrid.
Flipgrid. Yeah.
Flip
No,
grid, yeah.
my megaphone is on. Perhaps I'm just a bit quiet. I can shout if you like. I don't know. Right. Okay. One more question, and this time it is from. Just wait for it to come up. Graham. Graham, have you got a question you'd like to ask, please?
Can you see me?
Yes, we can,
Yes,
Graham.
Graham
Yes.
from the UK.
Hello, Graham.
Hey, Graham.
Really interested. Hey, how you doing? Really
Yeah,
interested
thanks
in
for
the
joining, man.
presentation. I missed the start of it. I'm just interested in your thoughts about the future of AR and VR. Recently, as you may have noticed, new to the kind of Oculus Quest and this whole interactive thing, I can move my hands, it's amazing. Do you see this as part of the future in education, or do you think that's more of a home consumer-based activity? Do you think this is part
Oh,
of the future?
I certainly do. I think, I definitely see it as definitely an important aspect of how we teach and deliver content in our classrooms. Especially, you could apply it to almost any subject, but history in particular, I think is where we're going to see a lot of VR and AR becoming more a bigger part of the curriculum because of that connection to place and history, and being able to connect our students in that way in a very immersive and engaging experience. So yeah, and I think that from my experience, the tools we're using now are extremely easy, but I feel like they're going to get much easier. And the technology that we need, that depending on the quality of what we want to create, the price points are starting to drop. We're seeing more and more 360 cameras come on the market, and the prices are getting a lot cheaper. You can get a 360 camera for cheaper than a phone now, cheaper than a smartphone. So it's becoming really easy, and then a lot of what we can create can already be done on the devices that we already have, which makes it way more accessible for our students and our teachers. So yeah, I definitely see it as an important part of education in our classrooms, probably in the near future more so than the far future.
Yeah, actually, I would echo that, Graham. I teach in the UK. I'm in a college based down in Kent, and we're now introducing virtual reality into our curriculum at several levels 3, 4, and 5, and it's something the students are responding very positive to. So yeah, I think it's not just here; it's here to stay. So yeah, we'll give that some hearts, I think. Thank you so much, Graham. That was a good question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you again, Michael. That was a fantastic
Thank you.
presentation. A really good one to finish with as well. Just so many resources you were giving out were just fantastic. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
Folks,
everyone.
we've now come to the end of the Educators in VR International Summit. I mean, I can't believe it's been 6 days, 5 different platforms, over 170 speakers. We do have a Rocking Out Summit ceremony that's going to be starting in around about 12 minutes time, so please do look for that on your events list, and feel free to join us and come and have a great time with us. It is based over in Somnium Space, but if you can't access Somnium Space because you need PC VR, then we are running a session here in Alt Space as well. So just look in the events section, you'll see the Rocking Out ceremonies in there, and that will be starting in around about 12 minutes time, and we would absolutely love to see you there. So hearts out to you guys too. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.